As we reported in the news, sugar and agri processing group Tongaat Hulett has reported a 36% rise in diluted headline earnings a share for the 15 months to March compared to the corresponding 15-month period a year earlier. Joining me on the line with more is CEO Peter Staude. Peter, good afternoon. Thanks for coming onto the show.
Thank you, Stephen. Good afternoon.
Well, Peter, just to recap, you have changed your year end to March, and that's really to fit in with the sugar season in the countries where you do produce sugar, isn't it?
Yes, we find that analysts will understand our results a lot better when we have the full season in our results rather than split over 2 financial years.
Well, perhaps just take us through the sugar production that we did see in the previous season. It looks like it was, well, in the current season, you're looking at 20 to 25% improvement. How was the previous season?
The biggest thing that happened in the previous season is that we really had a lot of benefit for Zimbabwe returning back to normality. 2008 and 2007 were very difficult years in agriculture in Zimbabwe, and particularly with the macroeconomic conditions that were distorted with hyperinflation, local prices that were distorted, and we were very happy that that was restored in 2009 and that we could really start commencing the turnaround in our Zimbabwean business. We still produce less than half the sugar capacity, but we made big strides to go forward, and it's one of the areas where we'll continue to improve sugar production in this year.
How long would you expect until your production in Zimbabwe reaches capacity and is fully normalized?
We haven't given a year. The area where it's most difficult to forecast how things will go will be with the outgrowth in Zimbabwe, but we're very confident that during this year we will increase sugar production in Zimbabwe, anything from 80 to 100,000 tons of sugar.
Well, just looking perhaps at Mozambique, because that looks to be one of the star performers. You grew production there from 108 to 134,000 tonnes, and you're planning to double that over the next 2 years as well. How are you progressing towards that goal?
Well, we made good progress during the year. We particularly made very good progress on the agricultural side and on the cane side. We had a lot of hiccups on the startup of the new mills, which one often has when you start up a new mill, and we're very confident that in 2010, 2011, will increase sugar production in Mozambique somewhere between 100 and 120,000 tonnes.
It looks like maize is also going quite nicely. Local maize prices trading close to world prices this year, and your harvest in the current year looks like it's going to be pretty good as well.
Yes, look, on the starch and glucose side, we're more exposed than in the sugar business to the worldwide economic conditions. In the last year, we had a 5% drop-off in local volumes, which had quite an impact on our profitability. And we've still got mixed feelings of what will happen for the year ahead. We're 2 months into the financial year. April was very good for volumes. May was not so good. So I guess all of us are wondering what's happening with the consumer in this next year.
Of course, we do know there is growing demand for food and food products globally. But just how have you been impacted by the recession? Because, I mean, there has been an impact on the business. For instance, you mentioned lower demand from the alcoholic drinks, paper, coffee, and confectionery sectors. So, I mean, there has been some sort of impact from the recession, hasn't there?
Well, the sugar side is very resilient. So sugar is one of those amazing products that even in tough economic conditions worldwide, even the demand drops remarkably low. And when the world is booming, by the way, demand doesn't shoot up either. So it's much more stable. On the starch and glucose side, particularly our paper-making customers have been heavily impacted, and that's about 7% of our supply. And then obviously the area in these financial results that are most impacted by these economic conditions remains our conversion from sugarcane land to property development. That's not an easy area to operate in at the moment.
Is that just because of depressed prices at the moment?
It's mainly because people are not starting new commercial developments in terms of new buildings, etc. in that part of the value chain.
Of course, you do own quite a lot of land around the new King Shaka airport, just north of Durban, so there must be vast opportunities there for you.
Oh, we're extremely excited. Monday will actually be quite a highlight for us along this route. Firstly, this airport now opened up, which is really targeting international tourism in a big way. And many years ago, we went into a JV in Zimbabwe with a Kuwaiti organization called IFA. What attracted us to them was the international marketing experience, the link to the Middle East and the Far East. And they're opening up a 5-6-star hotel called the Fairmont on Monday.
Of course, you did mention, just on sugar again, that it was quite resilient even in periods of recession. But we have seen that sugar price moving quite vastly in different directions. So we had sugar prices up sharply earlier this year. They have come down a little bit now. I mean, what do you expect the sugar price to do going forward from here?
Look, I think firstly, as a sugar producer, rather than, let's say, a fund manager, there's a lot of smoothing in our business that people don't sometimes expect. So people sometimes ask me, why don't we sell all our sugar at the peak? Well, we can't. Neither do we sell all the sugar at the bottom. If you look in these financial results on the world export side, which is only some 18% of our production, by the way, we average 15 cents a pound. In that period, the world price shot all the way up to 28 cents a pound. It's back to 15 cents a pound. In that period, we priced some 48% of our exports at 19 cents a pound, so that's already locked in. So there is a lot of volatility. The volatility is mainly associated about the uncertainty often on the Indian crop. The Indian crop has really gone up and down. In 2007, they made nearly 29 million tons of sugar. This year, they made 4 million tons more than people thought, even though it's quite a lot lower than it was in 2007. So that is creating some volatility in the price. But for producers like us, we are much more smooth the way we operate.
Of course, there's also volatility in the exchange rate, and although you're not exporting a huge amount of your crop from South Africa, you still are vulnerable to the exchange rate. And also with your operations growing in Zimbabwe and Mozambique, those earnings have to be repatriated as well. How do you hedge yourself against this?
The one currency conversion happens in Zimbabwe. We are declaring our earnings in US dollars, and then we take the average US dollar rand rate for the year to convert it into rand earnings. So obviously there's some smoothing impact, but we are impacted on it. And obviously the rand has been a little bit stronger in this period than it was in the previous one. And then in Mozambique, we effectively do our results in metical, which is roughly about 4 metical to the rand. And then most of our exports are in euros. So there are quite a few currency swings that come through, but we effectively don't try and play the market. We turn euro into eventually into rands at the time when it happens, and dollars into rands, and we declare results over the year.
Prospects for the current year, just given the crops that you are expecting and also the land conversion opportunities in KwaZulu-Natal?
Sorry, Stephen, I missed that a little bit.
The prospects for the current financial year, just given your crop estimates and the land conversion opportunities in KZN?
We are very positive for the year, but it's still got a long way to go till March 2011.
Peter, we have to leave it there. Thanks very much for your time this afternoon.